Well, as the global electronics industry holds its breath, awaiting the aftershocks from the crisis in Japan, the tech markets need look no further than the impact of the deadly quake that struck Taiwan in September 1999. In the month of that year, the price of memory chips jumped 30% and came at a time when Taiwan produced only 10% of the world's semiconductors. Well, so shaken by the worsening crisis in Japan, how will the global electronics industry cope? Well, joining me now is Malcolm Penn. He is chairman of Future Horizons, a company providing research and analysis for the chip market. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you put this in context for us in terms of just how significant is this for the global chip market, for what's happening in Japan right now?
Yes, I think there's two distinct parts to this. One is the direct impact of the chip production itself, but the more far-reaching impact is the impact that that has on the whole infrastructure of the electronics industry, which has a leverage of at least 20 to 25% over the intrinsic value of the chip itself.
And in practical terms, what are we likely to see here? How long will it be before we see companies just not being able to make their products?
There's going to be two phases to that. The immediate short-term impact, which will start to impact in a matter of weeks, really. And some components faster than that, memory, for example, where the inventory levels are very, very tight, that will impact straight away. Other components a little bit longer. But the real problem will come in 3 months' time, because it's what's not being made today, which takes 3 months to work its way through the production cycle. So that's going to impact in the third quarter, second quarter of this year, just when the markets are climbing because of the seasonal growth spurt. So they're going to be hit by strong demand and no capacity.
And what kind of companies are we talking about here? We're talking about mobile phone manufacturers?
Mobile phone, consumer companies, cameras, computers, I mean just about everything. It's hard to think where a chip is not used or has some element of it in its whole functionality. Now,
Japan obviously only makes a percentage of chips worldwide, and yet it appears that it's actually going to have an effect worldwide. It won't be picked up, will it, by Taiwan, by Korea? That can't happen?
No, because we've been running in a very capacity lean situation for 2 or 3 years. So we went into the situation before this disaster, factories were running pretty much at full capacity. So now you have a situation where there's no slack in the system. There's probably not going to be enough capacity anyway without this event happening. So now you've really got an exaggeration there of capacity being taken out. But it's not just the chip capacity. It's the polysilicon which is used to make the wafer substrate where these chips are printed on. That's been affected. Then it's the wafer manufacturing which has also been affected. So it's not just the chip companies, it's their suppliers and their suppliers' suppliers. So everything is under threat.
So we're likely to see shortages. Are we also likely to see price increases?
Yes, that's the automatic thing that happens because you have a limited demand, supply, more demand, and first rule of economics, prices go up.
Indeed.
And in memory it could double. I mean, other parts it'll go up, maybe not as much as that, but memory is very volatile. And you have to remember that memory prices halved in the last 12 months. So.
And what can we learn from this? I mean, we're a global. This is a global manufacturing base, and it's completely interconnected, isn't it? That's the way it will stay.
Yes, it is, and there's no getting away from that. But what I think we've lost control and direction, and perhaps even the significance of, is the supply chain management. Over the last 10 years or so, the whole thrust has been about outsourcing to subcontract manufacturers, which ends up being a very few small concentrated manufacturers. And of course, if they happen to be the one where the problem strikes, which is the randomness of the roulette wheel, then that takes out a lot. So I think the positive outcome of this might be a little bit more attention going back to basics of how do we manage the supply chain? Do we need more checks and balances? Should we have more inventory in the system in place, more security in there? Because all of that has been taken out over the last 10 years. We were running so lean, so mean, there is no slack when something happens. And this was monumental. This wasn't just a glitch. This is monumental.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.